Picking up the reins of a series that, which in its first few games is already considered the absolute best of its genre, can be an incredibly daunting task, one the Silent Hill franchise is no stranger to. Team Silent made 4 of some of the best survival horror titles to exist and then called it quits right there. Of course, Konami, who's no stranger to making money wherever possible, started contracting other developers to pick up where Team Silent left off. Climax would attempt to emulate the older games in the franchise with an origin story concept, while Double Helix Games would be contracted to bring the franchise to the next generation. The PS3, the Xbox 360, and for the last time, the PC. I'll be personally focusing on the PC version of the game, as I do own the PS3 version of the game, but I don't necessarily have a wave record for it. There are multiple fan patches made for the game, but I won't be using them as I'd like to get a feel for how Konami actually released the game. Since my last venture in the Origins, I have played most of every other game in the franchise, so while I wouldn't call myself a good voice on the subject still, I'm a little bit more experienced. So let's, put... Oh. Still no separate puzzle difficulty, huh? Not that bothered myself, but Silent Hill fans are so used to that it obviously put a lot of them off the game. We start in this dream sequence where our main character is being placed in a hospital of some sort, and oh, we better escape, cause... I don't think that thing has any interest in us. You can really just sit here and nothing. Regardless of that, we break out and explore the area we found ourselves in. We come across this kid named Josh who we chase down doing various light puzzles. And we get this awesome real-time transition into the other world. I love how the world just crumbles away into the rusted mechanical world we all know. Here we get our first terrifying enemy. Seriously, the sexy nurses again? I'm not quite ready to talk about this point fully yet, but seriously? We're using the nurses again? And of course there's some possible reasons you could vaguely piece together for them to be here, but I'm just so tired of seeing the same enemy. It's a shame, because otherwise this section isn't bad. The game looks pretty good, about standard for the time, and it expertly captures the look of the Otherworld. The atmosphere it builds is superb, and this goes for all of the Otherworld sections. We make our way through the facility and eventually get ourselves attacked in an elevator and...
Bad dream.
Now awake, we can finally follow Alex Shepard, a just-discharged soldier on his way home, and is that me? Regardless, he gets dropped off and everything is desolate, closed, and incredibly thick fog overcasts everything. It's almost like we're in, take a guess...
Silent Hill.
Wait, we're not? Where are we? Why, an area called Shepherd's Glen, the hometown of our man with the same name, because his family is one of the 4 founding families of this town. Anyways, we return to a nearly empty town, and the few people who did stay don't act entirely normal. Nor do they look entirely normal. Jesus Christ, these non-main character models are awful! Most everything else in this game looks fine, but these particular few models are really bad. Speaking of this, it's one of those games that falls into that trap where the proper cutscenes look fine, but then at times, usually when there are choices to be made, which of course change nothing about the story outside of the ending, suddenly the characters are stiff and have some of the worst lip syncing I've ever seen. Are these lips even moving sometimes? Generally, the characters are just very boring. We have girlfriend character, black character, and vague evil characters. They're just all boring. We get back home and learn something is very much wrong with our town. Our brother Joseph is missing, and from here on out, it's heading from area to area, switching between exploration, combat, and puzzles, all of which are done to various levels of success. The exploration can be quite good, running around an area, getting items, and using them in the right areas. Very much what I love about Silent Hill. The combat, on the other hand, has to be the worst we've had yet. It's your usual action setup, 1 button to target and 1 button for light attack and another for a heavy attack. If you do a heavy attack at the end of a few light attacks, you'll perform a combo that will stun the enemy and allow you to immediately follow up with another set of attacks. And of course a dodge button, which doesn't come in much help since it can be very difficult to tell when and in what way an enemy is about to attack, like really. And the problem there is that if you did get hit by the enemy, you get some pretty heavy knockback, which will lead to you getting cornered and hit multiple times, absolutely demolishing your health, something you don't exactly have a ton of. This is a problem that is especially apparent in a room with more than 1 enemy. But I guess my biggest problem with the combat is that it's quick action combat, and that's just not Silent Hill. Silent Hill combat is slow and plodding, a careful act which has to be done with precision if you want to get out unscathed. Fast-paced combat just doesn't belong here. It makes me want to get up in the enemy's face, when I should be wanting to keep distance between me and the monster that I'm going to have no choice but to fight. But on that, the enemy design is quite nice. I feel a few of them can be a little too humanoid and should have gone more out there in design. Also, to go along with the more fluid combat is various ways of fighting them that are required. A needler can't be fought head-on as they block all frontal attacks, so you need to move around them. Smog is better taken care of from a distance, and if you hit the lungs while they're expanding, you can take it out in just 2 shots. And Order soldiers, which being human, are as capable in battle as you— Wait! They're humans? Why am I fighting actual other people in Silent Hill? What are they doing here? They've got voice lines and everything! The boss design, however, is especially good. These things truly make me ask, what the hell is that thing? There are several weapons in the game, all of which attack at different speeds with different amount of damage. The knife is quick and weak, and the axe is slow, opening yourself up for attack, but can do some real damage. And they can open up new areas in an almost Metroidvania type way, not that it's utilized very well. When using the knife, Alex will do this like little spin thing at the end of a combo, and it's just hilarious. Why would you do that? Ew. It's so unnecessarily flourished. Later on, we meet Pyramid. What is he doing here? Again, just like the nurses, Pyramid Head is a part of James's delusion. Why do they keep doing this? As I said in Origins, the nurse enemies, as which we've all heard before, is in Silent Hill 2 to symbolize James's sexual frustration. But unlike where I excused it there's hardly any reason I could piece together solidly as to why these are in this game. The puzzles can range from stupid easy to this goddamn sliding block puzzle. It can go right to hell, and this is far from the only instance of puzzles that just go too far out for me to handle. Now, I want to talk about the PC port in specific here for a bit, because I don't really recommend you play it. Outside of sales, it's still $40 on Steam, and it's notoriously buggy and broken. The game will crash on you, and will crash a lot. This game crashed on me several times for often little reason. Sometimes attacking a smog will crash me, other times re-entering an area after dying, and worst of it is that if you tab out to check anything, the game will crash when you come back to it. This made recording this game a tad tough. It's a pain. They also don't display controller buttons, instead opting for just labels for buttons 1 through 4, and while it's easy enough to figure out what each button is and use it just fine, it's very much not ideal. And don't even get me started on the audio issues. Characters will be quiet and only focus on one ear, and ugh. There are fan patches that I recommend if you really can only play the PC version, but they could end up force disabling some of the stuff like the film grain filter. But I really urge you to play it on Xbox 360 or on PS3 if you really need to play this game. From here on, it's all spoilers, so if you wish to avoid them, you can stop watching the video now. Turns out Shepherd's Glen is directly related to the town of Silent Hill, as several members of the religious cult from that town left to create this town. 4 founding families: Fitch, Holloway, Barlett, and of course, Shepherd. In order to keep what we see in this game at bay, each of the 4 families must sacrifice one of their children in a particular manner. A Shepherd must drown, a Holloway must suffocate, a Bartlett must be buried alive, and a Fitch must be dismembered. Each of these have symbolism in the boss fights. Scarlet is a crudely stuck-together porcelain nightmare. Asphyxia is a stitched-together human centipede, which in the end is killed through reverse asphyxiation, mirroring Nora Holloway's death. Alex was supposed to drown, but after Alex and his brother Josh got into a fight, Josh ended up dying in the waters of Toluca Lake. Adam Shepherd, after the loss of one child, couldn't bring himself to lose a second and failed to complete the ritual. Alex, in so much shock, finds himself in a delusion where he believes Josh can still be saved. And what does a soldier do? Save people.
I can save him. He's okay.
He takes his father's dog tags as his own and believes himself to be a soldier. He's sent off to a mental hospital where he spends some time before escaping, and we finally begin the game. You'll notice something about all of this. There is indeed a lot of symbolism for many things, and there's so many external resources, an entire diary written online for Alex and several other characters on the website, but you'll notice it's a little hard to link anything back to Alex. The psyche of the character we play as is what Silent Hill should be about, but this game wants to pay more service to the lore of Silent Hill more than anything else, which I just don't think they should do. There are, of course, several endings, all of which imply various different things. The good ending, where everybody gets out safe, and Alex, now having learned the truth about what happened to the town and him, been my personal favorite, the hospital ending, which calls back to the beginning of the game, where it turns out we never left the hospital and Alex gets treated with dangerously high-power electrotherapy as told in the various documents around the beginning areas. And of course, a UFO ending carrying on the tradition of the series. And I'm afraid that's all there is to say about Homecoming. It's the worst attempt at a Silent Hill game I've played yet. It's got a lot of the same issues as Origins, just all in the opposite directions. I'm afraid that all I can say to the developers is...
You don't know anything about Silent Hill.